Hello everyone, and welcome to our Sage Business Cloud Payroll webinar. Today we will talk you through how to process your payroll, whether you have just set up and you want to know how to run your first payroll, or if you've been running payroll for a little while and you're looking to gain some confidence or knowledge on the software. So before we get started, I will take you through a little bit of housekeeping to explain how the webinar will work. If you look to the right of your screen, there's a toolbar. Your microphone is automatically muted and will remain muted throughout the session today. You can send us your questions using the question mark icon on the right-hand side there, and you will be able to see the questions others are asking in that panel as well. We do have a handout for you with some helpful links on the topics that we're going to cover in today's webinar. So if you click on that little page icon on the right-hand side, you can download any available handouts from there. So let's take a look at what we're going to cover in today's webinar. We will remind you how to access the payroll and show you around the software in a little bit more detail. So we'll take you on a bit of a tour of Sage Payroll. We'll show you how to prepare before you start to process your payroll, and then move on to the 4-step process of actually running your payroll, completing the payroll, and we'll include things like producing payslips and reports as well. Then we're going to move on and we'll take you through the month-end tasks, including any HMRC submissions and how to edit a pay run if you might need to do that in the future. At the end of the webinar today, we also will go through some common questions, things that crop up from time to time, and you might have already had those types of questions when you've run your own payroll. So if you haven't yet set up your payroll and you're not quite ready to run your payroll from start to finish, you might want to join us on our other webinar. That webinar is showing you how to set up your payroll. So we'll talk you through the various options. There's 3 options to set up, and we will show you how to use each of those options, and then you can decide which one's best for you. There is a link in the handout to this sign up page at the bottom there. So if you go onto the handout, you'll get these slides and your useful links document. So let's get started. So first of all, here's a reminder of how you log into Sage Payroll. Because it's a cloud-based piece of software, you would head to sage.com and there's a login option at the top right. When you select that login option, the first one is the one that you need, so that's the Sage Business Cloud Accounting and Payroll. You would then be asked for your login credentials. If you have already signed up for the software, you will have set those up at that point. Pop those in and you will be logged into your payroll. Because this is cloud software, you can access this on any device with an internet connection. So you could use a laptop or a tablet, for example. You could also use a phone, but because the screen is quite small, it does work better on a larger screen. I'm going to go into the software now and show you around the software in case you're new and you would like to know a little bit more about what the options are within the payroll. So as you can see, I'm already logged into the software. The screen that you're seeing now, if you're brand new to the software, you won't see this screen. So you would get your setup options, which is where the other webinar that we offer will come in handy for you. This is the Payroll Summary. So at the top, it gives you an overview of your pay run, the date, and the estimated cost. On the left-hand side there, you get an overview of your HMRC real-time information and when your next submission is due. If you've had any failed submissions, it would also let you know in there. And you've also got information around your employment allowance claim. If you haven't already submitted your claim, you can do so using this screen as well. There'll be a button on there to submit your claim. On the right-hand side, you have an update with regards to your pensions, whether you're up to date with your pensions processing. And if cyclical re-enrollment is something that's coming up for you, you will be asked to set your re-enrollment date. At the bottom here, we have a new feature. You can invite your employees to receive online payslips and P60s. In the handout, there's a link to a great video that tells you all about that. So if you're interested in online payslips, please have a look at that video link and find out all about online payslips from there. If you do have that message on the bottom and you would like to just get rid of that, you can just press the cross As you can see, I only have a monthly pay run here. If you have monthly and weekly employees, that is absolutely fine. You can run monthlies and weeklies, for example, in the same payroll. So moving on to the tabs along the top, you do have a pay runs tab. Now, if you go into that tab and you're brand new and you've just set up, you wouldn't see anything in the box on the right here. That shows a list of historical pay runs, which, as you can see, I have only got one historical pay run there, which is the September month. From this screen, you can set up a new pay calendar by clicking on this button here, and that will allow you to set up weekly, 2 weekly or 4 weekly paid employees should you need to. And if you want to view any historical payrolls, you can just choose that on the list on the right, and it takes you into an overview, and you can get your pay slips from here as well. We'll go into this screen in a little bit more detail as we move through the webinar. If I click onto the Employees tab at the top, that gives you a list of your current employees. You have a tick box on the top right, and you can tick that to see any historical leavers who have already left the business. If you need to create a brand new member of staff, you've just employed somebody new, you can click Create Employee here. If you're brand new to payroll and you need to set up all of your employees for the first time, this might not be where you should be doing it depending on your circumstances. So that's why I would suggest that if you're just setting up, please visit our other webinar. If we click on pensions at the top, that will show you and allow you to edit any pension schemes that you have in place. And at the bottom right, you can run various reports with regards to your pension. If we click on the year-end tab, now this isn't something that you'll be using quite yet. This will be something that you'll need come the end of the tax year. You've got a drop down at the top. So if you have been running payroll for quite some time, you might have several tax years in there. So just make sure you select the correct one when you come to run your year end. And you just need to follow the steps on screen. In the reporting drop down, you get several options for reports that you can run within the payroll. So for example, if you wanted to see employees' net pay, you can click on that option, tell it which tax year you want to run the report for, what pay frequency, which month or week in that frequency you want to see, and just click the generate button. So on each of those reports, you might have some filter options where you can filter it based on whatever your requirements are. It'll give you your employees, and this particular one is telling us how much net pay, so how much money needs to go into them employees' banks for that particular period. So month 6, which is September, that's the amount I need to put into their bank. Now, payroll doesn't connect directly to the bank, so if you have put any bank details into the employee records, that is just for your reference. It won't pay the employees automatically. We'll go into the other reports in a little bit more detail as we go on with the webinar as well. Just a quick one before we move on, you can export the reports as a PDF or a CSV as well. In the settings tab, this is where you can manage all of your business settings. So you can do things like set up payments and deductions for your employees. You can add new users to the software. If you have someone in your business that you would like to give access so that they can run the payroll in your absence, then you can use the user management section for that. You've also got things like payslip templates and your online payslip setup. At the top right, you have an option to manage business account. If we pop into there, this is where you can manage things like your business address, your contact details, and things like your subscription and invoices. So one of the great things about payroll is you can move and grow your payroll subscription as your business grows as well. So if we go into manage subscription and click on manage services at the top right, if you've gained a few members of staff, you can select the level of payroll that is relevant for you. So you would just simply click the next option, continue and subscribe to that to give you more employees on your license. I'm just going to pop back to payroll. Wherever you are in the software, you've generally got a question mark icon. So what that will do is it'll take you to the help page relating to the area that you're currently in the software. So if you're struggling or you're not sure, wherever you are in the software, you can click that icon and it will take you directly to the help page for that. You also have the help option at the top right. That will take you to our help files where you can search for something specific, or you can use the menus down the side to find the information that you're looking for. So there's plenty of help options available from within the software. So what I'll do now is I'll go through a few preparation steps that we suggest that you do take before you start running your payroll. So the first thing, and this one is especially important if you're brand new to the software, is making sure that your payslips are set up correctly in the right template that you would like. Now, if we go to settings at the top, you have payslip template. Just going to select that and you can see it gives you a preview of what the payslip will look like, whether it's printed or sent to the employee via email as a PDF. All of these templates should be printed onto plain paper. So if you choose this one, it will print onto plain paper with all of the green boxes. So if you do have stationery from your previous system, you won't need that stationery. It does just print onto plain paper. So you would choose the one that is most relevant for you, click save, and it will save that template so that when you run your payroll, that's the template that will show for your employees' payslips. Just going to pop back to settings. The next thing that you would probably need to do if you're new, more than if you have been running the payroll for a little while, is set up any payments and deductions. Now, even if you've been processing the payroll for quite some time, you might have a new payment or deduction that you need to set up before you start running the payroll. So in settings, you've got payments and deductions on the right. I'll pop into there. In the payments section, currently I have basic hours and salary. If you need to set up a new payment, you click on Create New Payment. So the payment category, you will choose depending on what the circumstance is. So hourly payments will give you an amount of hours and a rate. So you can get the option to show on a payslip an hour and a rate. A salary won't do that. A salary will just give you one box to fill in and you put that person's salary in the box. Holiday pay is there if you would like to advance any payments over tax weeks or months. Expenses, you can do business or private expenses from there, so it would depend on if it's taxable or not. And you've got an option for redundancy. So say, for example, I want to pay someone just one lump sum, but it isn't a salary. You can still choose the salary option, and then you get the next payment type option, which gives you a couple of different options in that drop down. So it could be a bonus, for example. You could click bonus. The name is what will show on the payslip for the employee, and the description is just for you. So you can change those if you need to, or you can leave them as is. If the payment that you're setting up is subject to pension calculations or qualifying earnings, you can leave those boxes ticked or untick them. And if you're unsure, you can always ask your pension provider. So if I click save to that one, if I click create new payment again, I'm going to pop down to hourly payments. I'm going to put overtime in this time, and I'm just going to click save to that. So now I've got a bonus and overtime hours element. It's the same situation for deductions. You can pop into deductions, click on create new, choose the relevant option, and click save. So I'll just pop back to the summary. The other thing that you might want to do before you run your payroll is check that your pension is set up correctly. So if we go into pensions, you can click edit pension and you can check the details. This one is set up as if it's a nest pension. So you've got a group and a payment source. If you use a different pension provider, it might not look exactly the same as this, but you can usually log into their portal and check the information between what they have and what you have in your payroll. If you need to set up a new pension, you can click Add New Pension at the top right. Choose one of the available options or click Create Your Own if your provider isn't listed there. Another thing that you'll need before you run the payroll is if you have had any employees absent in that particular pay period, you will need the details of that. So if someone's gone on statutory sick leave or maternity, paternity, anything like that, you will need to know the details, things like the dates and whether you've got the relevant forms before you start processing the payroll. And especially important if you are new, make sure that you know your HMRC details, because when you run a payroll, you do need to submit directly to HMRC, and you will need your user ID and your password for the government gateway to be able to do that. If you're a brand new company and you're not sure whether you have that, please speak to HMRC, as you will need that information to be able to submit to them. Some of the details you can check prior to the pay run are in Settings, and then Payroll Settings, and you can check your PAYE reference number for HMRC, your Accounts Office reference number as well. And those details, along with the user ID and password, are used for submission purposes. So it's always good to check those out. So let's go back to the slides and we'll recap on those preparation steps. So firstly, you should set up your payslips or check that you have the right layout selected for you. You should manage any payments and deductions within the settings area of the program. Check your pension setup or set up a new pension if that's required. Enter any employee absence details. And make sure that you do know your HMRC logon information, because without that, you will not be able to submit. So now we're ready to process a pay run. So I'll go into a live demo of running through a typical pay run and what you'll need at the end of your P32 reporting period as well. So back into payroll now. There's two screens that you can use to run your payroll from. It doesn't matter which you use. So the first one is the summary screen. You can see you've got a process pay run button on the right. If we go into the pay runs tab, you have a process pay run button here too. They both take you to the same step, so either one is absolutely fine. So I'm just going to do it from the summary. Click on process pay run. There's 4 steps to a pay run, as you can see at the top. So you've got start, absences, pay, and confirm. So it's a really, really simple process in this software. The first step is simply to confirm the pay date of your employees. So this isn't the date that you're running the payroll, this is the date the employees get paid. So if we select that calendar, that gives you the available dates within that tax period. So because I'm paying monthly, that runs from the 6th of October to the 5th of November. That is the full tax month. So you can see any days outside of that period are greyed out. If we just click Next, that takes us to the absences section. And you've got a list of your employees down the left-hand side of this screen. So employee 1 may not have any absences. So instead of clicking Next, you might want to go to employee 2 on the left and enter an absence for them. If we drop down the Add Absence option, you can see all of the relevant options there. This is for statutory absences. So this isn't where you would put any holiday in. This is where you would go in for statutory payments. So as you can see, you've got things like maternity, paternity, adoption pay, sick pay, and bereavement pay. So if you had maternity pay, for example, you would select that, and then you're asked for the relevant details for the system to be able to calculate maternity pay for you. You'd need all of this information from a MAT B1 for maternity. If I just close that, if you were unsure, you've got the question mark icon at the top, and you can open that up into the absences help page. So that's there to help you as well. Same thing for any of the other absences, they're all statutory, so it will ask for the information that the system needs to be able to calculate that on your behalf. So if I click on sickness, you can tell the system whether you've received the relevant documentation from the employee, what the start date is of the absence, and the end date of the absence. If it's ongoing, you can always put an end date in and change that end date as you go along. I'll just close out of that for now. These employees don't have any absences for this period, so I'm just going to click Next. Here is where we build the employee's pay and what will show on their payslip. So as you can see, employee 1 has basic hours as their pay element. So this is where it's the hourly payment. So you can see how that's calculating. You can see below the PAYE, National Insurance, and their Nest pension contribution is processing automatically and calculating for you. If there is an extra element to add in a particular pay run, you can drop that Add Payment box down, select the extra payment that you need to make, and you can pop in the amount of hours at the rate, and that will come up and it would recalculate the PAYE and National Insurance if they're applicable for that pay element. You've also got in that drop down the other elements that I showed you earlier in the settings. Because I'm not using them for this employee, they come up as being available to use if I want to. Same with deductions, you can just drop that box down and pop a deduction onto the employee's wage should you need to. You've got a drop down for manage enrolment. So if someone is in the automatic enrolment pension scheme, you can manage their contributions from this drop down. So you can change their percentage amounts should you need to from here. If the person has decided to leave the pension scheme and you get notification of that, you can also use this enrolment drop down to take the person out of the pension, or if you've got a new pension scheme, you can change the pension scheme here as well. If for whatever reason an employee isn't being paid for this particular pay run, you can click Exclude Employee, click Yes, and they will be completely excluded from that pay run. Next month, when I process the pay run, I'd get the opportunity to untick that box and include them again. Now, if we move to the next employee, this person is on a salary rather than an hourly payment. So you can see I've got a salary here and there's just the one box to pop in their monthly salary. Everything else is the same. The tax, the national insurance, the pension, it's all calculating as per employee 1. And I've got the manage enrolment drop down. So I'm going to pop a bonus onto this person's pay. I'm happy with everything that I've got on each of my employees for this particular pay run, and I'm just going to click Next. The confirm step shows you, prior to you completing the pay run, a report. It shows you a breakdown of the employee's net pay at the bottom, any pension contributions, and you also get a payslip link at the bottom. Now this payslip link, I'll just click on that and show you, is a draft. So this isn't the one that you would print out or email or give to your member of staff. This is simply so you can check it and make sure that you're happy with everything on that payslip before you complete the pay run. The detailed report here, if you don't print this at this stage, that's fine. You can get it after you've completed the pay run as well. I'll just click on that and show you. It gives you a breakdown of the employee's pay in several different ways. So you've got the Payslip Summary at the top, a summary of the types of payments you've used, the deductions that you've used, the employer costs, HMRC totals, and also the net pay values that you need to pay your staff. At the bottom, you do have a year-to-date section where you get the year-to-date figures for the full tax year. So like I say, you can get that once you've completed the pay run. So if you forget to open that or you haven't checked it for this pay run, that's absolutely fine. Don't worry about that. When you click on complete pay run, if you're brand new to the system and it's your first pay run, you will automatically get a box asking you for your user ID and your password for the government gateway. If you have been processing payroll for a little while, the system saves your information. So when you run your first pay run, you get a tick box asking if you want the system to save your user ID and your password for future pay runs so that you don't have to keep re-entering those each time. Tick that box and you'll get this screen. It's not asking me for my HMRC login details because it's already stored those and saved them. So to finalise this pay run and submit all of the values that you're paying your employees to HMRC, you just click on confirm. This is the completed pay run screen and you'll be redirected to this as soon as you complete your pay run. You can get your detailed report at the top, which is the one I just showed you a few moments ago. And as you can see, it's just came back and told me that my FPS, this one here, has been successfully sent to HMRC. So HMRC have received all of the information from me as an employer about my employees and what the payroll has been for this month. As you can see, I can export all of the pay slips. So I'm going to click on that button and I get the pay slips in the format that I chose. Now, if I click back, one of the things I don't get here is the option to email the employees' pay slips. The reason I don't have that option is when I've set up the employee records, I haven't put an email address and a password into their record. So if I go into employees, click on employee 1, click edit, you have pay document preferences. If we select email, just popping in an email address and then a password. So you could use a password that the employee has given you to use. You could use things like their national insurance number or something specific to them and let them know what you've set as their password. They wouldn't be able to open the payslip attachment on the email without the password. So it does protect anybody else who might have access to their emails from seeing that without the password. So I've saved that. If I go into pay runs, click on the pay run that I've just ran, I now get an email option next to employee 1. If I click that, there's an automatic message pops up and you can add to that if you want to, and then you just click on send email. And off that goes to the employee. Now on the right hand side, you do have an option for your pension submissions. So because this is a Nest pension, I can submit directly to Nest. You can click on view, submission details, and you can select to submit your pension contributions online automatically. You will be asked for your login information for the Nest portal, and if you haven't set up your pension correctly, you may get some problems with submitting. So things like your group and your payment source, however you have them set up in Nest, need to be exactly the same within the software. Now, when you submit to Nest, if you do get any error messages, it should give you a good description of why that's being returned as an error and why it won't submit. In the handout, we do have a link to the information that you may need to correct any of that. So please bear in mind, if you can't submit to Nest, have a little look at our help files and they should help you determine what the problem is and how to rectify that. You've also got an overview on the bottom left-hand side of when your EPS payment is due. So the EPS is the Employer Payment Summary. So if you pay HMRC monthly, for example, it'll give you a countdown of when you need to pay HMRC. You've also got a link at the bottom to the P32 Employer Payment Record, and that's the report that'll break down all of the PAYE and national insurance for that tax period and give you how much you need to pay to HMRC. If you're claiming any employment allowance, that will show on that report too. Now, I'm just going to show you that in just a moment, but what we'll do is we'll go back to the slides for now, and then we'll come back to show you any month-end tasks in a little while. So let's recap on processing your payroll. There's 4 main steps to processing the pay run. So if we're going to simplify this and make it really, really easy for you, the first one is to set your pay date, which is the date the employees are being paid, not the date you're processing. Then you would enter any absences, and that is your statutory payment absences, not holiday. Then you would enter any payments and deductions that are specific for the employee in that period. Now, you might have noticed that when I went into payroll, the salaries and the hourly payments were all already filled in for me. And that's because payroll remembers everything from the previous period. So if you have salaried employees that get the same salary every single week or month, the salary will already be there. You may just need to add any extras onto the pay run or change the salary if there's been any changes. And the next step is to complete your pay run. At that point, you submit an FPS to HMRC that tells them everything that they need to know with regards to who you're paying and what you're paying them. So I said that we'd come back to the reports and talk about those in a little bit more detail. So the first report, and this is the one I showed you a little bit earlier on, is the Employee Net Pay Report. So this shows the employee net pay totals. So that's all of your payments and deductions that are taken into account, leaving a net pay figure. That net pay figure is what you need to pay to your employees. Now, as I said earlier, the payroll doesn't link directly to any online banking. So those kind of reports are really handy for when you're logging into your banking to make those payments to your employees. The next one is called the Payslip Summary. And that provides information for each employee as you'd see it on their payslip. So if you want to see a breakdown of all the employees for that payment frequency all in one place rather than looking at individuals' payslips, then you can use that report, and it can be used to reconcile any of your net pay values shown on the above report as well. The Employer Costs Report. That's a summary of the cost to you, the employer. So you can see how much the payroll is costing you. That report is useful for budgeting and for forecasting purposes. The Liability Totals Report will show a breakdown of the liabilities for each employee for PAYE and national insurance, for example. You can use that report to reconcile against your P32 liabilities and values. So that's your monthly payment that is due at HMRC. And you've got an average earnings and working hours report. So that report can be helpful to help you calculate employees' average earnings and can help when reconciling statutory payments, holiday entitlements, and working out things for government help schemes. So furlough, for example, could have been one of those. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pop back into the payroll, and I'm going to show you the P32 process and the EPS process. So back to the summary screen, and this time my monthly pay run at the top shows November, and that's because I've already ran the October payroll. It's moved that along to the next available pay run. On the left-hand side at the bottom, you can see that in my real-time information, it shows month 6 that an EPS payment is due in 21 days. That is because I need to run the EPS and record my payment to HMRC. So if I just click on the link on the right to say record payment /EPS, this is available to me because I have completed all of the pay runs within the September processing month. If you have a weekly pay run, for example, you might not see that link until you have processed all of the weeks within that tax month, and then you will get this option. So don't worry if you can't see that on your screen. It may just be because you need to run another week within the pay run. If you do have that option and you know that nothing's going to change in your pay run, you can do it now, or you can wait and until that day 20 or 21 at the end of that countdown. You don't have to do it straight away, but it is something that if you know nothing's going to change, you can tick that off your list. So I'll click Record Payment /EPS. So the first question that this asks is if our company is eligible for small employers relief, and that's all to do with statutory payments. So if you're not sure, you can check in our help files. That will give you a lot of information with regards to that. I'm going to select yes, I'm a small business and I know I'm eligible for small employers relief for maternity, paternity, things like that. If it was no, you can just select that option from here. Eligible for employment allowance? Yes or no. So you select the relevant option there. And again, if you're unsure of whether your company is entitled to employment allowance, you can check out our help files and find out more information there. You can also find out information from HMRC directly. It will tell me how much I owe to HMRC, and I can pop in the date I'm going to pay HMRC. If you have accounting and payroll, this will post, if you have the payroll integration set up, the amount to your accounts. If you do have accounts linked, there's a drop down at the top here and you might see accounts in that drop down. So the payment date is mostly relevant here for that accounting link, because when you select to submit this information, that payment will show in your accounts with that date. And the same reason for the reference. So if you have accounts and you have the integration set up, it will post this payment with whatever reference you give it here. So I'm going to click next to that. If you have any CIS deductions suffered that reduce your liability to HMRC, you can pop that amount in this box. That is a year-to-date figure, so that is not just this month's figure. It is a year-to-date. If you have submitted amounts previous in the year, you will see them, but they'll be greyed out in the first box. The reason the two boxes are greyed out for the total recovery and compensation for statutory payments is because the system calculates those automatically for you. So there might be a value in there if you're recovering any maternity or paternity, for example, but the system automatically calculates that. So there's no manual input needed from you. So you would just click next. Again, the system will use any saved HMRC login details to use for this submission. And below that, it will tell you what the payment will be posted to accounts, what the payment is. So if you've got accounts, that's what will be posted, and you can see that there's a HMRC submission due. So all we need to do is click submit. And you can see the EPS is being transmitted on the left-hand side. Above that, you can see that the next EPS that's due is the October EPS, which is for the pay run that I have just ran. What I'm going to do is just go into pay runs at the top, click on the October pay run, click on the P32 report for October's pay run, and I'll just show you this. So this is the report that tells you how much you owe to HMRC and gives you a breakdown. So it tells you what the PAYE total is, so that's the tax, the national insurance for both employee and employer, and it also gives you the employment allowance offset. It also gives you the employment allowance summary at the bottom. So it tells you how much you've reclaimed so far and how much you've got left to reclaim for the rest of the year. The revised amount due at the bottom is the amount that you owe HMRC. So I'll just close that, pop back to the summary, and as you can see, the EPS is due in 52 days. Just like the employees, the payment will not go to HMRC automatically from the system it will need to be done manually. So just use that P32 report to pay HMRC. If you ever need to edit a pay run, you would go into the pay runs tab, click on the pay run that you need to edit, and there's an edit pay run button at the top. Now, we would strongly suggest that if there's a pay run that needs to be edited, we would ask, can you do that in the next pay run? So say, for example, if you've forgotten to pay somebody's overtime, could that wait until the next pay period? If so, it's probably best to put that into the next pay period rather than editing one that's already been completed, because once you have completed a pay run and you've successfully sent the FPS to HMRC, you can't edit that FPS. So if you edit a pay run, what would happen is in the next available pay run, you would see some automatic corrections going through. If you did need to edit a pay run for whatever reason, there's plenty of information in our help files that will help you with that. If I just show you quickly, if I click edit pay run, I am going to go into employee 2 and I shouldn't have paid them that bonus in October. If I click next, view summary, I have edited the pay run and took that £500 bonus off employee 2. Now I did that for the 29th of October pay run, but it hasn't changed the FPS because that has automatically already been sent to HMRC. If I go into the summary tab, I'm just going to show you November's pay run. I'm just going to click through these screens just so I can get to the screen that's relevant. And I'm going to show you employee 2. As you can see in the deduction section, there is a correction on this employee's pay. And that's because I took that £500 bonus off the employee. Because the pay run had already been completed, the payroll assumes that that employee was paid incorrectly last time. So it tries to claw that money back. So as you can see, it's a £320 deduction. The reason that isn't £500 is because it's the net pay, not the bonus of 500. So the bonus of 500, that person actually got £320 of that due to tax, national insurance and pension. So that's what it's trying to take back, is the difference in the net pay for that employee. So that's how corrections work. So this is why we would say that if you have anything that you need to correct or edit in a pay run, first of all, can it be done in the next pay run? If it can, we would suggest you do that. If it can't, you can go in and edit a pay run, but there will be implications to the following payroll that you run. There's plenty of help information out there. So if you go to the help section at the top, there's a section on corrections here. So you've got a frequently asked questions and how to correct a pay run and how to reverse those correction deductions and payments if applicable. So there's plenty of help out there. If you do need to edit a pay run, just be aware that it will change your subsequent pay run for you as well. So let's go back and take a look at that payroll checklist. So you would first complete your pay run and submit your FPS to HMRC. You would produce your payslips and any other reports that you need. Pay your employees outside of the system. Update your pension provider on your deductions. So whether you do that manually on their portal or whether you do that by directly submitting through the payroll, that's only available for 2 providers. So if you're doing that manually, there's plenty of reports in the system to help you do that. You can run your P32 and submit your FPS. You can run your P32 and submit your EPS to HMRC, and then you would pay HMRC as well. So we'll now go through a few common questions and answers. So how do I add more employees to my subscription? So we went through that a little bit earlier. I'll just show you again. You log into your payroll, hover over your business name at the top, select Manage Business Account, go into Subscriptions and Invoices, and you can manage your subscription from here and add more employees. Or if you've made somebody a leaver and you are not backfilling that person, you can also come down a level as well. The next one that is quite common is how is the pension calculated? And that all depends on how you have the pension set up. So if we go back into the pensions tab at the top, I'm going to click on add a new pension, add your own pension. If we click on add plan, so if you've set it up as a percentage, it will calculate as a percentage in the payroll. If you've got it as a fixed amount, you're telling it the actual deduction you want to make. If you select percentage, there's a few options here as well. So you have apply to pensionable pay, and that will calculate the percentage on the full pensionable pay elements. Apply to qualifying earnings. Now this would be used a lot for a nest pension scheme, for example, and that's where there's a little bit of free pay. So it works a little bit like PAYE tax. So say, for example, the employee is being paid £2,000 in that period, the pension percentage wouldn't necessarily be calculated on that full 2,000. If you've chosen to apply the percentage to qualifying earnings, it would take off a free pay amount before it starts to calculate the qualifying earnings for the pension. You might be looking at the pension deduction and thinking, well, that is not 5% of their wage. It won't be if you've chose that option. It is worth checking with your pension provider if you are unsure. But again, if you check our help files, you do have a lot of information on specific pensions. So if we click on Nest here, you've got the options here and you do have an explanation of that. But again, your pension provider will be able to give you all of the information you need. One of the options here is why won't my pension submit to Nest? If your submission isn't working or you're coming up with an error, please go into our help files and have a look for the particular error. That will tell you the cause and how to rectify that. And usually 9 times out of 10, it is because the Nest groups and payment sources aren't set up correctly, or the ones that you have set up in payroll aren't identical to the ones that you have in Nest. Things like case sensitive groups and sources, they have to be in the same uppercase and lowercase or it won't submit. So little things like that can affect it. Your accountant can access your payroll. So if you want to give them access and they have the accountant's edition, you can go into your payroll and give them access. There's a link in the handout to show you how to do that. If you need to change someone's tax code, that would usually happen automatically at the start of the tax year, or if you get a notification from HMRC, you would simply go into the employee record, edit that employee record and put their new tax code in there. You would only be changing a tax code if you have been told by HMRC to change the tax code, or if it's the start of the tax year and you're applying the standard change for that year. To make someone a leaver, let's just show you that. Just pop back into payroll. If you go into the employees tab, you have a cross next to each employee. You click on that and then you can tell it the last working day. So if the last working day, for example, for this employee, I'm just going to pop one in. I'm going to click on that employee and there's a print P45 button at the top. It is worth making sure that before you run that leaver process that the employee has been paid everything that they should have been paid by you. So they might have some holiday pay left over to be paid. So just make sure that if you've got anything left to pay them, they do appear in your final pay run for them. If they don't appear, it's because you've put a leave date in before you need to run their final pay. What is a P46? Now HMRC may show this as a starter statement or a starter declaration. Now that is if you get a brand new employee and they don't bring a P45 to you. A P46 is something that you should get your new employee to fill in. It'll give you all of their information and it will indicate what their tax code should be until you receive a P45 or more information from HMRC. There's a link to that information in the handout. So that is the starter statements or the starter declarations with HMRC. You can print out that form and get your employee to fill it in. So this does bring us to the end of what we're going to cover in this Getting Started webinar. There are other things that you can explore, such as the pension submissions in more detail if you would like to. So use our help files to do that. There's plenty of information there, or by all means, pop a question into the questions panel and we'll do our best to answer that for you. Remember, you do have a webinar for setting up your payroll. So if you still need to set up, sign up for that webinar and we can help you through that process. We also have our Help Centre, which we've discussed throughout this webinar. All of the answers to your questions will live in that Help Centre, so please visit that as much as you need to get any answers that you need. With regards to the Help Centre, if I just pop into there to show you, at the very bottom of your articles, you have an option to get in touch. So if you do need to get in touch with us, click on that link and that will take you to your contact options. So we'll stick around for a couple of minutes. If you've got any questions, submit them in the questions panel now, and then we'll leave the webinar in a few minutes' time. So that takes us to the end of what we're going to cover today. Thank you for attending. I hope that you have found that useful and you're confident in how you can run your payroll in Sage Payroll. Thanks again, and please stay safe. We do hope to see you on another webinar again soon.